What is Valentine's Day? Seriously, man, what is it? Who created this? Why do we have to buy the gifts? What is the whole purpose behind this quasi-holiday? Is it just commercialized? Is it just something that everyone is like, cha-ching, I'm a chocolate guy, I have a factory, you should buy some for your sweetheart? Is that what it is? Well, I have these questions because anyone who's ever been in a relationship knows the importance of Valentine's Day, whether you feel it's important or not. Because it's like, oh, you know, it doesn't mean that much. Go a day without buying something on Valentine's Day. What happens then? What happens then? No answer? That's because we all know the answer. It's cold and it's dark and it's a hellish landscape. So, Valentine's Day, what's it about? But before we get into that, how you doing? Thanks for tuning into the channel today. For those new to the channel, my name is Corey Rennie. I'm the Unemployable Counselor, which is my nom de plume. And for those that have been here before, I just want to say thanks for tuning back in and thanks for checking out my stuff. I really appreciate it. Now, I'm only going to say this at this point of the video, but if you are a fan of my channel and want to check it out, please subscribe, share, like, and most importantly, besides subscribing, comment. Let me hear your thoughts on this topic because not everyone may agree with me on this. But Valentine's Day is one of those days where you can't really not do anything unless you're single. You know, it's kind of comes with the relationship territory. Not even if your partner's into it, but I'm sure your partner has friends. And if your partner is talking to those friends, it's going to come up. Like, oh, what did you guys do for Valentine's Day? Oh, we watched the hockey game. Dead silence will follow. Okay, but before we get to any of that stuff, what exactly is Valentine's Day? Where does it come from? What is it about? Why do we do this? Where's some of the history? Now, I'm going to go to the book, and as you can tell, I do take my own notes. I go unscripted, but I wanted to make sure I got the names right with this one. But there is a few possible origins for Valentine's Day, right? There's one that goes back to Roman times. There's a festival called Lupercalia, which was usually done on February 15th, according to the old Roman calendar. And they celebrated fertility as well as the coming of spring, right? That was kind of the whole purpose of that day. And in that time, it included animal sacrifices and drunk and disorderly. So it was basically a party where they sacrificed animals to appease the gods, to have a good spring and good weather and that sort of thing. The next theory on it is a little bit darker, but one I find pretty interesting. There's two different stories, but they could be the same person because that's how history works. There's a martyrdom of a priest named Valentine who was executed by the Roman Emperor Claudius II on February 14th. Now, this priest was executed, but before he died, he cured his jailer's daughter of blindness, which seems kind of weird. That's probably one of the reasons why he was executed for, we'll just call it witch-like behavior. I don't know, but it was something, you know, in medieval times, anyone who did anything that was deemed to be of a sorceress nature or the dark arts, even some alchemy, things like that, were often shunned and executed because they believed it was a pact with the devil. That is one of the theories. But before he died, Valentine wrote a letter to the girl that he cured of her blindness. And in that letter, he signed it, "From your Valentine." Interesting. There's also another person who was executed, not at the same time in some stories. Some stories, maybe it was. But it was another one. This was Saint Valentine of Tirana. On February 14th, as I said, it was a different year. But he was executed for secretly marrying couples to prevent the husbands from going off to war. They deemed that as a huge detriment to the war effort at that time. And by doing that, he was basically saving people from an untimely death against a war they couldn't win. And hence he was executed for that. Even though they say it's different years, there's a lot of, theories that it was the same person. The martyrdom of those two, or one, is one of the theories about that. So that's one part of it. So where did the leaven come in, right? Because those aren't the best stories. You can see, he left her basically the first Valentine, right? The priest Valentine, where it says, from your Valentine, right? Which is just him maybe cleverly signing his name. It's like saying, respectfully, the unemployable counselor, right? I don't think they'll be giving unemployable counselor cards centuries from now. Although, it's not a bad idea now that I think about it. But the development of that. So February 14th became associated with romantic love in the 14th and 15th centuries, right? So that's kind of when it happened. So you go Roman times, we're looking at 2,000 years ago, right? Maybe a little earlier for those sorts of things. And it was the same time frame for both the priest and the saint. Again, possibly the same person, but that was the time frame for that. So let's jump ahead 1,400 years. And then it became to be associated with romantic interest. Why? I'm not 100% sure. And I couldn't find that in my research. But that's when they started to equate that with love. Valentine with, unrequited love, that sort of stuff, right? Shakespeare wrote some beautiful plays about that stuff. Check them out at your local library or the internet, probably the internet, right? So the Valentine's Day cards have been written since the 15th century. So not only did they start declaring that as a day to associate with your love of somebody else or your love of your partner, but if you want to do a manifestation of that love, which is different than the old physical form, which some of us are very fond of, you turn out to be the cards. The cards started to come out in the 15th century, and they say the first one may have been written by a prisoner of London at that time, in the Tower of London. Now, I think that's a little more romanticizing the impact, and I'm sure the first time a card was written professing one's love was not just from a prisoner awaiting an execution, but stranger things have happened. It came across the United States in the mid-18th century, right? So roughly a couple hundred years later, because that's how history works, that it started to be becoming popular place there. And of course now it's not only where you declare your love for someone else or you show your love, it's more required that you do something for that person or give them something such as chocolates, flowers, a card, a meal, with the potential of perhaps carnal relations later that night, which is kind of modern day Valentine's Day in a nutshell, right? I think every day is a day to tell the person that you love them. I just think it's good. You don't need one day to celebrate. But if I was also making chocolates in heart-shaped boxes, I would definitely want you to celebrate those and buy as many as you can once a year, right? So we have that fact, right? So that's a quick little brief rundown on some of the history or lore around Valentine's Day, when the cards kind of came to be, and how we all operate going forward, and what it looks like today, right? Because if you go on the internet, I have Facebook friends and stuff to be like, does anyone else have plans for Valentine's Day? If you're by yourself, probably not. But you should take care, you should do self-care every day. Because if one person should love you, it should be you, right? But it's always fun to have another person to share that with. Because let's be honest, some things are fun, or more fun when you have another person. Okay? So you look at what that looks like and you think to yourself, okay, Valentine's Day, what do we do? What do you do for Valentine's Day? What is something where you can express your love for someone in a way where they're like, oh, he put some thought into this, or, she really put some thought into this. Because let's face facts. There's flowers, like I said, there's chocolates, there's meals, there's those sorts of things, there's cards. But now that's kind of commonplace, and the pressure gets put on to do something extra special for this day. So what does that look like? If we've been celebrating Valentine's Day, at least with cards, and in the States since the mid-18th century, what do we do now that it's, about 170 years later, closing in on 200 years after that practice came to we'll say North America. Okay. So what are the plans? What are the big things? Do you write a poem as someone who's done that in the past, right? Do you show your creativity, right? Do you ignore it and play the bad boy and have them give you cards? That'd be kind of cool, actually. But in my experience, that hasn't worked out too well because everybody expects something, even if they say they don't. And it's typically, growing up, it was typically more for the, not necessarily, should we say, in your standard roles of society when I was a young man, right? Like growing up 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and before that, it was typically the man got something for the woman, right? And it was typically flowers, or it was typically something like that. But as times have changed and things are getting older, and equality is more of an actual equality in a lot of cases, is it just solely up to the male in the relationship to provide that? Or does the female provide something for the male? Or is it still that view of times past where it's the man's responsibility to do that? And if you don't, what happens? Those carnal desires I spoke about earlier probably won't happen if you forget that day. So how do you go forth with that? Right? My opinion is, what if you do tell your spouse you love them every day and you do special things for them? Are you still expected to do something on Valentine's Day? Yes, you are. So how do you top what you normally do? And if you do that, is it expected throughout the year? It's a good question. How do you connect those two together? How do you forge a relationship based on one day where I'm going to show you how much I truly appreciate you, right? Because let's face facts. This day and age, everybody has a day to appreciate someone because it's just how it goes, right? We have National Hot Dog Eating Day, for Christ's sakes. How do we do this in a way that's respectful and gets the point across, but doesn't break the bank? Because not all of us are rich, and you can show your appreciation without spending a lot of money. And if the expectation is you're spending a lot of money, then is that a relationship that's really built on love and trust? Or is it, hey, this is a special day for me, I need you to shell out some money, right? I want a hotel room somewhere, I want to go away. Is it a matter of you spend the night away from the kids if you're married? You take your whoever you're dating, do you guys go out for supper? Do you go for a nice ride? Do you spend some you time? Like, how does that work? What do you do for Valentine's Day? What's the best Valentine's Day you ever had? What's the worst Valentine's Day you ever had? Those are the questions I think that are quite interesting, because we've all had some horrible Valentine's Day. I had a Valentine's Day where I was with a girl, and it was just one nasty phone call after another, where it's like, what the hell, right? Like, it could be as simple as just watching movies, right? Do you need to buy something big? Is the expectation that something is bought big? How do you handle that? How do you do that, right? Now, I'm not anti-gifts or anything like that. I just think that on a day like that, which is about celebrating your love for someone else, the expression of it, should that matter that much? Should it be a matter of, I need to do this grand gesture so the world knows how I feel about this person when I'm with them all the time, and whatever, maybe we're dating, whatever. How does that... The romanticizing of the day is, like I said, if it started from people being executed and it kind of came to this, okay. But the romance part of it, I think, is what it is. And it's how you treat that other person other than just one day, right? It's kind of like we get programmed to know these things growing up. It's like, I got to do this on this day, got to do this on this day. I mean, once Christmas is done, once January 1st hits, they're already putting the stuff out for Valentine's Day. Right? Like, it's just the natural progression. Well, this is the next one, so you got to do this for it. Now, I'm not anti-Valentine's Day, but I do think every day should be a day you celebrate, the person you're with by just treating them respectfully and doing little things for them. And, you know, in the old days, it might have been something simple like making a mixtape, right? Those sorts of things, right? I'm really dating myself there, but, you know, I think that if you're in a relationship that's truly based off those things, I think that the appreciation is nice, but the underlying feeling should be there in the forefront. Now, I'm not saying it's like, I'm never going to buy you anything because I love you, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't have to break the bank just to show someone that you care about them and love them, right? Sometimes just even the way you behave and the way you act on that day could be the one to do that. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that just because you want to get laid. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you're respectful and you're honest and you're pure about what your feelings are with that person, they're going to recognize that that's coming from a good place. Okay? All right. This is a real quick, I was going to say a quick and dirty one for Valentine's Day. But that probably, well, I don't know, maybe some people want that for Valentine's Day. Who knows? But I know for myself, being a single guy, I look at Valentine's Day now a little bit different and think, you know what, it'd be nice to have someone to watch a movie with or do that kind of stuff. And I'm working on it. But I also think that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, finding that someone to be with is rare enough. So to just celebrate it on one day of the year seems a little counterproductive because you want that person to feel like they're important to you every day of the year, right? Okay. On that note, we're going to wrap this baby up. From the rooster on the wall to Mando the dog, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I know I said this earlier in the video, but now's the time where I'm going to ask you, like, share, comment. Please tell me your thoughts on this. What's your best and worst Valentine's Day dates? Those sorts of things. And don't forget to subscribe. And most importantly, tell your friends about this channel, right? Share it with them. Let them watch, right? If they can't, you know, put it on the TV. And if they can't get up to change it, just put it on play all so they can watch all of them, right? It really helps us out, and I really appreciate anything you guys do to help out like that. I really appreciate it. Okay, Corey, Unemployable Counselor, wishing all of you a very happy Valentine's Day, whether you're with someone or not. If you're with someone, tell them you love them, appreciate them every day. If you're not, make sure the person who loves you is you. Because if you don't love you, it's going to be hard to find someone else who wants to love you. Okay? All right. Take care of yourself. And name all babies after me. I'd appreciate that. All right. Have a good Valentine's Day, everyone, and stay warm.